It started on a night that was supposed to be ordinary, just another dinner in Lucas Romano's mansion. The rich men laughed, the wine flowed, and in the corner, Rosaline Johnson quietly did her job. But when they turned their laughter on her, something in Lucas snapped. No one expected the most feared man in the city to defend a maid, and that one moment would uncover secrets that neither of them were ready to face. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive deeper into the story, I want to know where you are watching from. Drop your city and country in the comments below. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button because trust me, you won't want to miss how this story unfolds. Now, let's get back to the story. Rosaline knelt, her fingers steady as she picked up the jagged pieces. The chandelier above cast fractured light across the polished floor, each shard glinting like the eyes watching her. 14 guests. She'd counted them when she'd served the first course. 14 of the most dangerous, wealthy, and vicious people in the city, all gathered in Lucas Romano's fortress of a mansion. And every single one of them was staring at her like she was nothing. I heard Romano hired her from some homeless shelter, a man's voice drawled. She recognized him, Vincent something, arms dealer, 3 murders the police couldn't prove. Charity case, probably. How noble of our dear Lucas. The emerald dress woman again. Isabella Cortez, if Rosaline remembered correctly. Old money, new cruelty. Though I'm surprised he let such shabby help serve at important gatherings. Rosaline's uniform wasn't shabby. She'd made sure of it. Pressed, clean, professional. But that wasn't what they were really mocking, and she knew it. It was her silence. Her lowered eyes. The way she moved through the room like a ghost, present but not there. If only they knew. Where did you find this one, Lucas? Vincent called toward the head of the table. She mute or just stupid? That's when Rosaline felt it, the shift in the room's temperature. The sudden, suffocating silence that fell like a guillotine blade. She risked a glance toward the head of the table. Lucas Romano sat perfectly still, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. The candlelight caught the sharp angles of his face, turning his expression into something carved from stone. But his eyes, those dark, unfathomable eyes that had seen too much, done worse, were fixed on Vincent with an intensity that made Rosaline's breath catch. What? Lucas said softly, each word enunciated with surgical precision. Did you just say? The room held its breath. And Rosaline realized with sudden, terrifying clarity, something was about to shatter far worse than glass. But why would Lucas Romano, a man who'd built an empire on ruthlessness, who trusted no one, who showed mercy to nothing, care about a maid being insulted? Unless he knew exactly who she really was. Vincent's smirk faltered. Just slightly. Just enough. I was just joking, boss. No disrespect meant. Stand up, Lucas interrupted, his voice still that same deadly calm. Rosaline's hands trembled as she placed the last glass shard on her tray. She should leave. Every instinct screamed at her to disappear into the Kit Williams, to make herself invisible the way she'd perfected over the past 6 months working in this house. The way she'd perfected over the past 3 years, period. Ever since the night her father died. Ever since she'd discovered that everything she'd believed about her family, her life, her identity, was a carefully constructed lie. Lucas, darling, Vincent didn't mean anything by it. Isabella's voice dripped false sweetness. You know how men get when they've had too much wine. Why don't we all just... I said, stand up. Lucas's chair scraped against the floor as he rose, and the sound was like a gunshot in the silence. Vincent stood, his face pale beneath his expensive tan. Look, if this is about the girl. Her name, Lucas said, moving around the table with the fluid grace of a predator, is Rosaline Johnson. And she is under my protection. In my house, that means she is untouchable. He stopped inches from Vincent, close enough that Rosaline could see the older man's throat work as he swallowed. Do you understand what untouchable means, Vincent? Rosaline's heart hammered against her ribs. This was wrong. This was dangerous. Lucas Romano didn't defend maids. He barely acknowledged their existence. In 6 months, he'd spoken directly to her maybe a dozen times, curt instructions, brief nods, nothing more. That was the arrangement. That was the safety of it. Stay invisible. Stay silent. Stay alive long enough to find what she'd come here looking for. Proof that Lucas Romano had ordered the hit that killed her father, decorated police captain Thomas Johnson, 3 years ago. Except nothing about Lucas's behavior right now matched the monster she'd expected to find. I understand, boss. I'm sorry. Vincent's apology came quickly, desperately. You're sorry, Lucas repeated, turning the words over like he was examining a counterfeit bill. You humiliate someone under my roof, someone under my protection, and you think sorry is sufficient. What do you want me to do? Vincent's voice cracked. Lucas smiled then. It was the most terrifying expression Rosaline had ever seen on a human face. Leave. Now. And pray I don't remember this conversation the next time you need a favor. Vincent didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed his jacket and practically ran for the door. The sound of it slamming echoed through the cavernous dining room. Lucas turned to the remaining guests, his expression still carved from ice. Anyone else have comments about my staff? 13 heads shook in perfect unison. Good. Rosaline, go take your break. 30 minutes. The Kit Williams staff can handle the rest. Rosaline's eyes snapped up to his face before she could stop herself. It was the first time she'd looked at him directly in weeks, and the impact of that gaze, dark, intense, and inexplicably knowing, hit her like a physical force. For just a second, something flickered in his expression. Something that looked almost like concern? Impossible. Yes, sir, she whispered, gathering her tray. She was halfway to the Kit Williams door when his voice stopped her. And Rosaline? She turned. Every eye in the room was on her now, but Lucas's were the only ones that mattered. You don't bow to anyone in this house except me. Understood? The words hung in the air like a promise. Or a threat. Rosaline couldn't tell which. Understood, she managed, then fled through the Kit Williams doors. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the tray. Rosa, the head cook, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and flour-dusted hands, caught it before it fell. Dios mio, child, you're white as a sheet. What happened out there? Rosaline shook her head, unable to form words. What had happened? Why would Lucas Romano publicly defend her? Why would he risk showing any kind of favor toward a servant in front of his associates? Unless he knew. Unless he'd somehow discovered that Rosaline Johnson wasn't really a maid looking for work. That she was the daughter of the cop who'd been investigating him before a car bomb turned him into ashes and shrapnel. That she'd spent 3 years planning, preparing, and positioning herself to infiltrate his household and find evidence that would destroy him. Here, drink this. Rosa pressed a glass of water into her hands. Whatever it was, Mr. Romano clearly has your back. In all my years working for him, I've never seen him defend anyone like that. You must be special. Special. The word tasted like poison. Rosaline wasn't special. She was a liar living on borrowed time, playing the most dangerous game of her life. And she'd just been reminded that the man she was playing against had built an empire on reading people, on knowing their secrets before they even confessed them. If Lucas knew who she really was, why hadn't he killed her already? And if he didn't know, why did he look at her sometimes like he was seeing straight through to her soul? What do you think Lucas knows? Drop your theories in the comments. I love reading what you all come up with. And if you're invested in Rosaline's story, make sure you're subscribed because the twists are just getting started. Outside the Kit Williams door, the dinner party resumed its artificial chatter. But Rosaline could feel the weight of unanswered questions pressing down on her chest like stones. She had 30 minutes before she had to go back out there. 30 minutes to decide if she was walking into the dining room again, or if she was running for her life. But running would mean abandoning the only lead she'd found in 3 years. And Rosaline Johnson hadn't survived this long by being a coward. Her father deserved the truth. Even if finding it killed her. Rosaline didn't get 30 minutes. She got 12. Rosa was still fussing over her, trying to force cookies into her hands, when Carlos, Lucas's head of security, built like a mountain with eyes like a hawk, appeared in the Kit Williams doorway. Mr. Romano wants to see you. His private office. Now. The water glass nearly slipped from Rosaline's fingers. Rosa's face went carefully neutral, but her hand squeezed Rosaline's shoulder. A warning. Or maybe a goodbye. Go on, Mija. Don't keep him waiting. The walk from the Kit Williams to Lucas's private office felt like a death march. Rosaline's mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. He knew. He'd figured it out. This was where it ended, not with justice for her father, but with her body disappearing into the same darkness that swallowed so many who crossed Lucas Romano. Carlos stopped outside the heavy oak door, knocked twice, then opened it without waiting for a response. "Inside," he said, not unkindly. The door closed behind her with a sound like a coffin ceiling. Lucas stood with his back to her, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. His suit jacket was off, draped over his chair. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms that were surprisingly elegant for a man with blood on his hands. "Do you know why I hired you, Rosaline?" His voice was different here. Quieter. Almost tired. Rosaline's throat was sandpaper. "You needed household staff, sir. I have 63 people on my household staff." He turned, and the city lights behind him cast his face in shadow. "I don't personally interview maids. I don't review their applications. I certainly don't hire them myself." Her heart stopped. "But I hired you." He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. Whiskey, probably. The expensive kind that cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Do you know why?" "No, sir." The lie came automatically, smooth as silk. She'd practiced lying for 3 years. Lucas crossed the space between them, held out one of the glasses. "Drink. You look like you need it." Rosaline stared at the glass. "Was it poisoned?" "A test?" "It's just whiskey, Rosaline. I'm not going to drug you." A hint of amusement colored his voice. "If I wanted you dead, there are far more efficient methods than poison." The brutal honesty was somehow worse than a threat. With trembling fingers, she took the glass. Lucas returned to the window, his own glass cradled loosely in his hand. "Your father was Thomas Johnson. Decorated police captain. 43 years old when he died. Car bomb outside his precinct. They never found who did it." The glass nearly shattered in Rosaline's grip. "The official investigation concluded it was probably a gang retaliation. Your father had put away a lot of dangerous people. But you never believed that, did you, Rosaline?" She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't do anything but stand frozen as her entire world tilted sideways. "You believed I did it," Lucas continued, his voice still that same unsettling calm. "Because 3 days before he died, your father told your mother he was close to breaking a major case. A case involving organized crime at the highest levels. And my name was in his notes." "How do you?" Rosaline's voice cracked. "How do I know?" Lucas turned, and for the first time, she saw his face clearly. There was no anger there. No threat. Just a bone-deep exhaustion that made him look older than his 34 years. "Because I've known exactly who you were since the moment you applied for this job. I've known why you're here, what you're looking for, and what you plan to do with it." The room spun. Rosaline grabbed the edge of his desk to steady herself. "Then why?" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Why am I alive? Why did you hire me? Why did you defend me?" Lucas took a slow sip of his whiskey, his eyes never leaving hers. "Because I didn't kill your father, Rosaline. And I'm going to prove it to you." The statement hung in the air between them like a thunderclap. "You're lying," she whispered, but even as she said it, doubt crept in. The man standing before her didn't look like a liar. He looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear alone. "I wish I was." He set his glass down, moved closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and smoke. Close enough to see the fine lines around his eyes, the scar that cut through his left eyebrow. "Your father was a good man. One of the few honest cops in this godforsaken city. And yes, he was investigating me. But he was also investigating something much bigger. Something that involves people in my own organization." Rosaline's mind reeled. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that someone in my inner circle wanted your father dead. Someone who knew he was getting close to exposing a network that goes far beyond my operations. And they used my reputation, my resources, to make the hit happen." His jaw clenched. "They made it look like my order. They framed me to you, to the police, to everyone." "Why would they do that?" "Because they are planning something. Something big enough that they needed your father out of the way. And when it happens, when everything comes crashing down, I'll be the one holding the blame. He laughed, bitter and sharp. I'll either end up dead or in prison, and they'll slide right into the power vacuum I leave behind. Rosaline's knees felt weak. This couldn't be real. This had to be manipulation, some elaborate game to make her trust him before he destroyed her. But there was something in his eyes, something raw and genuine, that her instincts recognized as truth. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Why not just get rid of me?" Lucas's expression shifted into something she couldn't quite read. "Because for 3 years, I've been trying to find proof of who really killed your father. Trying to identify the traitor in my organization before they make their move. And in 3 years, I found nothing concrete." He paused. "But you have something I don't have." "What?" "Your father's real files. The ones he kept hidden. The ones that weren't in his office when he died." Rosaline's blood ran cold. How did he know about those? She'd found them 6 months after her father's death, hidden in a safety deposit box she'd only discovered because of a cryptic note in his personal effects. Files, photographs, ledgers, evidence of a conspiracy that went deeper than she'd imagined. Evidence she'd been too afraid to act on alone because she didn't know who to trust. Evidence she'd hidden again because the scope of it terrified her. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice betrayed her. Lucas stepped closer. Close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes she'd never noticed before. "Rosaline, I know you have them. And I know you've been looking for proof that I'm the monster who killed your father, so you can decide whether to turn those files over to the FBI or use them to destroy me yourself." His hand lifted, and for a moment she thought he might touch her face. Instead, he pointed to her collarbone, where a small silver locket rested beneath her uniform. "That locket. It was your father's. You wear it every day. And I'd bet everything I own that inside it is a key to wherever you've hidden those files." Rosaline's hand flew to the locket instinctively. Protectively. Lucas smiled sadly. "I'm not going to take it from you. I'm going to ask you to trust me." "Trust you? You're," she stopped herself. "A criminal. A killer. A monster." He finished for her. "All true. I've done terrible things, Rosaline. I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. But I didn't kill your father. And if you give me a chance, if you work with me instead of against me, we can find who did. Together." "Why would I possibly agree to that?" "Because someone in that dining room tonight is the person who ordered the hit. Someone who's been watching you as carefully as I have, wondering when you'll make your move. Someone who will kill you the moment they decide you're a threat." His eyes held hers with uncomfortable intensity. "Alone, you'll end up like your father. With me, you have a chance." Rosaline's mind spun through the implications. This was insane. Working with Lucas Romano? The man she'd spent 3 years hating, planning to destroy? But if he was telling the truth? "How do I know this isn't just another manipulation?" she asked. "How do I know you won't use me to find those files and then kill me?" Something flickered across Lucas's face. Something that looked almost like hurt. "You don't," he admitted. "You're going to have to make a choice based on instinct. Based on what you see when you look at me." He held out his hand. "So look at me, Rosaline. Really look. And decide." She did look. Past the expensive clothes and the dangerous reputation. Past the fear and the hatred she'd carried for so long. She looked at the man standing before her, a man who'd defended her in front of his enemies, who'd known her secret for months and hadn't acted on it, who looked at her now like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years. And what she saw terrified her more than any threat. She saw someone telling the truth. 1 week, she heard herself say. "You have 1 week to show me proof you didn't kill my father. If you can't..." She straightened her spine. "I take those files to the FBI and let them sort it out." Lucas's hand was still extended. 1 week, he agreed. Rosaline reached out, her fingers trembling, and clasped his hand. The moment their skin touched, electricity shot up her arm. His hand was warm, strong, calloused in unexpected places. His fingers closed around hers gently, like she was something precious that might break. "Partners, then," he said softly. "Partners," she echoed, knowing even as she said it that she'd just made either the smartest or stupidest decision of her life. And from the way Lucas was looking at her, like she was simultaneously his salvation and his destruction, she suspected he was thinking the exact same thing. Drop a comment and let me know. Is Rosaline making the right choice? Do you trust Lucas? I need to know what you're thinking. The city glittered beyond the windows, beautiful and brutal, hiding 1,000 secrets in its shadows. And Rosaline had just agreed to help uncover the one that could destroy them both. The partnership began at midnight. Rosaline sat across from Lucas in his office, her father's files spread across the desk between them like pieces of a puzzle she'd been trying to solve alone for far too long. The dinner party had ended an hour ago, the guests dispersing into the night with their secrets intact. Walk me through what you know, Lucas said, his jacket discarded, tie loosened, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. Rosaline pointed to a photograph, her father shaking hands with a silver-haired man outside City Hall. 3 weeks before he died, Dad met with Councilman Richard Dawson. According to his notes, Dawson claimed there was a money laundering operation running through city contracts. Construction deals, specifically. Lucas's expression darkened. Dawson's on my payroll. Has been for 6 years. Exactly. So either Dawson was setting my father up, or someone was setting me up through Dawson. Lucas pulled the photo closer, studying it with an intensity that made Rosaline's pulse quicken. Who else knew about this meeting? According to Dad's notes, he told his partner, Detective Sarah Connor. Connor. Lucas's jaw tightened. She retired 2 years ago. Moved to Florida. Or that's what everyone thinks. Rosaline pulled out another document, a bank statement with Connor's name. She's been receiving monthly deposits of $50,000 from an offshore account. For the past 3 years. Since right after my father died. Lucas's eyes snapped to hers. You think Connor was involved? I think someone paid her to disappear. Either because she knew too much, or because she was part of it. And you've been investigating this alone. For 3 years. Something in his voice made her look up. He was watching her with an expression that was equal parts admiration and concern. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly reckless. Maybe both, Rosaline admitted. A smile ghosted across his lips, a real smile, not the cold one he showed the world. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost gentle. Your father would be proud of you. The words hit her like a physical blow. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she forced them back. She couldn't afford to be weak. Not now. Don't, she whispered. Don't talk about him like you knew him. But I did know him. Lucas stood, moved to a filing cabinet, and pulled out a folder. 6 years ago, your father pulled me over for speeding. I was 28, stupid, and had a gun in my glove compartment I shouldn't have had. He handed her the folder. He could have arrested me. Should have. Instead, he gave me a warning and a piece of advice I've never forgotten. Rosaline opened the folder. Inside was a traffic citation, never filed. And a note in her father's handwriting. Every man gets one chance to choose who he wants to be. Don't waste yours. Her breath caught. I was already deep in the life by then, Lucas continued quietly. But that moment, your father seeing something in me worth saving when he had every reason not to, it changed something. I couldn't walk away from the family business. Too deep, too much blood. But I could try to run it differently. With some kind of code, at least. Rosaline stared at the note, her father's familiar scrawl blurring as tears finally escaped. He never mentioned it. He wouldn't have. That was the kind of man he was. Lucas's voice was rough. Which is why when I heard about the bombing, I started my own investigation. Because Thomas Johnson gave me a chance once, and I owed him the truth. The silence stretched between them, heavy with shared grief. Who at that dinner tonight knew my father? Rosaline asked finally, wiping her eyes. Lucas returned to the desk, pulled up a seating chart. Isabella Cortez, her family's construction company has secured 70% of city contracts in the past 5 years. If there's money laundering happening through construction, she's involved. The woman who threw the glass at me. The same. His expression hardened at the memory. Vincent Mancini, arms dealer, but also has connections to offshore banking. Could be moving money. The man you threw out. Yes. Lucas circled another name. Gregory Hines, my attorney. Handles all my legitimate business operations. If someone was setting up a frame job, they'd need legal cover. Rosaline studied the chart, her investigator's mind clicking through possibilities. What about your inner circle? Carlos, Rosa, your accountant. Luca Abbott. My accountant and oldest friend. Lucas's voice went carefully neutral. We grew up together. His family. Family betrays family all the time in your world. In my world, family is the only thing you can trust. But something flickered in his eyes. Doubt. Rosaline pressed. When did he start handling your finances? 8 years ago. When my father died and I took over. And in those 8 years, has there been any irregularity? Anything that didn't add up? Lucas was quiet for a long moment. 2 years ago, there was a discrepancy. 3 million missing from one of the offshore accounts. Lucas said it was a banking error, that he'd sorted it. $3 million. Recovered. He showed me the documentation. Can I see it? Lucas's hesitation was answer enough. Rosaline leaned forward. You have to consider everyone, Lucas. Even the people you love. Especially the people you love. That's how my father operated, and that's how we'll find his killer. And what about you? Lucas's gaze locked on hers with sudden intensity. Should I consider that you might be playing me? That this partnership is just another way to get close enough to destroy me? The accusation should have angered her. Instead, Rosaline felt a strange flutter in her chest at the directness of it. You should absolutely consider that, she said honestly. Just like I'm considering that this whole thing might be an elaborate setup to neutralize me as a threat. Then we're both taking a hell of a risk. Yes, we are. They stared at each other across the desk, the air between them charged with something more dangerous than suspicion. Rosaline noticed details she'd trained herself not to see before, the way his shirt sleeves revealed the corded muscles of his forearms, the intensity in his dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls, the way his voice dropped half an octave when he spoke to her alone. This was dangerous. Not because he might be lying, but because part of her was starting to hope he wasn't. It's late, Lucas said finally, his voice rougher than before. You should rest. We'll start fresh tomorrow. Rosaline began gathering the files, but Lucas's hand covered hers, stopping her. Leave them. They are safer here. This room is swept for bugs daily, and only Carlos and I have keys. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, whether intentionally or not, she couldn't tell. I meant what I said earlier. You're under my protection now. That means something. What does it mean? The question came out softer than she intended. Lucas's eyes held hers. It means I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. The vow hung in the air between them, absurd and thrilling and terrifying all at once. Rosaline pulled her hand away, needing distance before she did something stupid like believe him completely. I can take care of myself. I know you can. You've proven that. He smiled slightly. But you don't have to. Not anymore. As Rosaline walked to the door, his voice stopped her one more time. Rosaline? That thing you did tonight, not flinching when Isabella threw the glass. How many times has something like that happened before? She turned back. His expression was dark, dangerous in a new way. Enough times that I learned not to react, she admitted. Give me names. What? Everyone who's humiliated you, hurt you, disrespected you while you've been under this roof. Give me names. Why? Because they're going to learn what it means to touch something that belongs to me. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified her. Should have reminded her that Lucas Romano was a dangerous man who controlled people like chess pieces. Instead, it sent heat flooding through her veins. I don't belong to anyone, she said firmly. No, Lucas agreed, his eyes never leaving hers. You don't. But they don't know that. And by tomorrow morning, every person in my organization will understand that you're untouchable. That you're mine to protect. Mine. The word echoed in Rosaline's head long after she left his office, wound through the mansion's corridors to the small staff room where she'd been sleeping for 6 months. She lay in the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every moment of the evening. The humiliation at dinner. The confrontation in Lucas's office. The way he'd looked at her when he talked about her father. The warmth of his hand covering hers. This was supposed to be simple. Infiltrate, investigate, expose, escape. But nothing about Lucas Romano was simple. And the worst part? Rosaline was starting to suspect that everything she'd believed about him for 3 years might be wrong. Her hand went to the locket at her throat, feeling the small key hidden inside. The key to a storage unit across town. The key to the evidence that could either prove Lucas's innocence or condemn him forever. Tomorrow, they'd start hunting for the traitor together. Tonight, Rosaline had to decide if she was ready for what might happen when the truth finally came to light. Outside her window, storm clouds gathered over the city, pregnant with rain and secrets. And in his office 3 floors above, Lucas Romano stared at a photograph of Thomas Johnson and wondered if saving the man's daughter would be his redemption. Or his destruction. Morning came with gunfire. Rosaline jolted awake to the sound of shattering glass and Carlos's voice shouting orders in the hallway. Her training kicked in before conscious thought. She rolled off the bed, staying low, reaching for the knife she kept hidden in her mattress frame. The door burst open. Lucas filled the doorway, gun in hand, his face a mask of controlled fury. With me. Now. Rosaline didn't argue. She grabbed her jacket and followed him into the corridor where Carlos and 3 other security guards had formed a protective barrier. What's happening? She demanded. Someone just tried to put a bullet through your window, Lucas said, his hand closing around her arm, pulling her toward the main staircase. Professional. Long range. If you'd been standing instead of sleeping, you'd be dead. The words hit her like ice water. Who? That's what we're going to find out. They descended into a basement she'd never seen before, reinforced steel door, biometric lock, the kind of security that screamed panic room. Inside was a wall of monitors showing every angle of the property. Carlos, show her. Carlos pulled up thermal imaging from 30 minutes ago. A figure on the rooftop of the building across the street. The muzzle flash. The trajectory line ending precisely where Rosaline's bed would have been visible through the window. We've got teams en route to the location, but they'll be gone, Carlos reported. This was a pro. Rosaline's mind raced. The dinner party was last night. Someone made a decision fast. Too fast. Lucas's jaw was granite. Which means they were already planning this. Last night just accelerated their timeline. He pulled up another screen, security footage from the dinner party, time-stamped during the glass-throwing incident. His fingers flew over the keyboard, isolating each guest's reaction frame by frame. There, Rosaline said, pointing. Gregory Hines. Your voyeur. He's not watching me. He's watching you. Lucas zoomed in. She was right. While everyone else had been focused on Rosaline's humiliation, Gregory's eyes had been locked on Lucas, his expression calculating. And there. Lucas pointed to another frame. Isabella. She's texting someone under the table. Timestamp says 9:47 p.m. 3 minutes after you defended me, Rosaline noted. Lucas pulled up phone records. He had access to everything in his organization. Isabella's text had gone to an encrypted number, but the response came back within seconds. Problem. New variable. Recommend immediate action. She was reporting to someone, Rosaline breathed. Someone who ordered your death within hours. Lucas's hand clenched into a fist. Carlos, bring me Isabella Cortez. I don't care what she's doing. Bring her here now. Boss, if we grab her, we show our hand. They already showed theirs when they tried to kill Rosaline. Bring her in. Carlos left. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air thick with adrenaline and something else Rosaline couldn't name. You're shaking, Lucas said quietly. She looked down. He was right. The reality was sinking in. Someone had just tried to murder her. Would have succeeded if she'd been standing by the window like she sometimes did in the mornings. Hey. Lucas's hands were on her shoulders, warm and steady. Look at me. She did. His face was inches from hers, those dark eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her forget to breathe. I will not let them hurt you. Do you understand? Whatever this costs me, whoever I have to burn, you will be safe. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. Because you're not just an investigation to me anymore, Rosaline. You haven't been for a while. The confession hung between them like a live wire. Lucas. I know. I know this is insane. I know you came here to destroy me. I know I should keep my distance, stay professional. His thumb brushed her cheek, and she realized tears had escaped without her permission. But someone just tried to take you away from me, and the only thing I could think about was that I never told you the truth. What truth? Her voice was barely a whisper. That I've been watching you for 6 months. That every time you walk into a room, I notice. That when you smile at Rosa in the Kit Williams and think no one's watching, it's the most beautiful thing I've seen. His forehead touched hers. That I'm falling for you, and it's the worst possible timing and the most dangerous thing I could do, but I can't stop it. Rosaline's world tilted. This was wrong. This was her father's killer, except he wasn't, and every instinct she'd honed screamed that this man was telling the truth. That the vulnerability in his eyes was real. That the connection sparking between them was more than attraction. I don't know if I can trust this, she admitted. Trust you. Trust what I'm feeling. Then don't trust it. Not yet. His hands framed her face. But don't run from it either. Help me find who really killed your father. And when this is over, when you know the truth, then decide. Before she could respond, the monitors flickered. All of them. Simultaneously. Then a face appeared on the central screen. Luca Abbott. Lucas's oldest friend. His accountant. But he wasn't in his office. He was somewhere dark, the camera angle deliberate, staged. Hello, Lucas. Luca's voice came through the speakers, smooth and cold. I see you've been busy playing detective with your little pet project. Touching, really. But it's time we had a conversation about the future. Lucas's entire body went rigid. Luca. What the hell is this? This is me taking what should have been mine years ago. Luca's smile was serpentine. Did you really think I'd spend my life managing your empire while you played the reluctant prince? I built the financial networks. I created the offshore systems. I made you untouchable. And what did I get? A salary. Like some common employee. Your family. Family. Luca laughed, bitter and sharp. Your father promised me a partnership. Equal shares. Then he died and you inherited everything, and suddenly I was just the help. Well, I decided to take my partnership. 3 years ago, I started moving your assets into accounts you didn't know about. Building my own organization inside yours. And when Thomas Johnson got too close to the truth, I did what needed to be done. Rosaline's blood turned to ice. You killed my father, she whispered. Luca's eyes found her through the camera. I did. Though I'll admit, I didn't expect his daughter to be quite so resourceful. Infiltrating Lucas's household, getting close to him, that was impressive. Almost derailed my entire timeline. Where are you, Luca? Lucas's voice was death itself. Somewhere you'll never find me. But don't worry, I'm not done with you yet. See, the files Miss Johnson has been hiding? I need those. They contain evidence that could connect me to certain transactions I'd rather keep buried. So here's the deal. Luca's expression hardened. Bring me those files. Tonight. Midnight. The old warehouse on 5th and Morrison. Come alone, both of you, or I start killing people you care about. Rosa's daughter, for instance. Sweet girl. 23. College student. Be a shame if something happened to her. The screen showed another image, Rosa's daughter, Maria, walking across a campus, completely unaware of the man following her with a gun. You bastard, Lucas snarled. Midnight. The files. Or Maria dies. Then Carlos's brother. Then everyone you've ever cared about, one by one, until you have nothing left. Lucas' smile returned. Oh, and Lucas? I know you've got a sniper team. I know you've got trackers and tech. But I've been inside your operation for 8 years. I know every move before you make it. Come alone, or people die. Simple. The screens went black. For 3 seconds, there was absolute silence. Then Lucas exploded. His fist slammed into the wall, leaving a dent in the reinforced steel. 8 years. 8 years he's been stealing from me, planning this, and I never saw it. He's been careful, Rosaline said, her mind already working through the problem. Patient. That's how he got away with it. And he killed your father. Lucas turned to her, anguish written across his face. Rosaline, I'm so sorry. I brought him into my organization. I trusted him. Your father died because of my blind spot. The pain in his voice cracked something open in Rosaline's chest. She crossed to him, took his face in her hands the way he'd done to her moments before. Look at me, she commanded. This is not your fault. Luca made his choices. He pulled the trigger, not you. But. No. You don't get to carry this. We're going to stop him. Together. What do you think happens next? Drop your predictions in the comments, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time because this story is about to get even more intense. Lucas's hands covered hers, holding them against his face like they were the only solid thing in his world. He wants those files. If we give them to him, he'll kill us anyway, Rosaline finished. The files are the only leverage we have. Once he has them, we're loose ends. So we don't go alone. Lucas's strategic mind was already working. We set a trap. Use the files as bait. He said he knows every move you'll make. He knows how I operate in my world. But he doesn't know how you operate in yours. Lucas's eyes locked on hers with sudden intensity. Your father trained you. Taught you to think like a cop, not a criminal. Luca won't see that coming. Rosaline's pulse quickened. You want to run a sting operation. I want to end this. Tonight. And I want you by my side when we do. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of plan that got people killed. But as Rosaline looked into Lucas's eyes and saw the determination there, the promise that they would face this together, she realized something that should have terrified her. She trusted him. Completely. And somewhere between the gunfire and the revelations and the gentle way he touched her face, she'd stopped seeing him as the enemy. She'd started seeing him as hers. Okay, she said. Let's take him down. Lucas pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapping around her like a shield against the world. His heart hammered against her ear, as frantic as her own. When this is over, he murmured into her hair, we're going to have a very long conversation about what happens next. What do you mean? He pulled back just enough to look at her, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. I mean that I'm not letting you walk away when this is done. I mean that I want to know if what I'm feeling is half as crazy as what you're feeling. I mean. Rosaline kissed him. She didn't plan it. Didn't think about it. Just rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his, cutting off his words with action. For one heartbeat, Lucas froze. Then he kissed her back like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. His hands slid into her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. Rosaline's fingers fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing more of this feeling, this crazy, impossible, perfect feeling that shouldn't exist but did. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucas pressed his forehead to hers. Definitely not letting you walk away, he murmured. Good, Rosaline whispered back. Because I'm not going anywhere. Outside the safe room, a storm was brewing, both literal and figurative. Inside, two broken people who'd found each other in the darkness prepared for war. By midnight, either they'd have justice for Thomas Johnson's death, or they'd die trying. Together. The plan fell apart at 11:47 p.m. Rosaline and Lucas had spent the day preparing. Carlos had positioned a team 3 blocks out, far enough that Lucas' surveillance wouldn't detect them, close enough to move in when signaled. They'd created a duplicate set of files, perfect forgeries that would pass initial inspection. The real files were locked in a safe deposit box with instructions to go to the FBI if neither of them survived the night. Rosaline wore a wire. Lucas carried 2 guns. They'd rehearsed every scenario, every contingency. They hadn't planned for betrayal from inside their own team. The warehouse was exactly as decrepit as expected. Broken windows, rusted metal, shadows that swallowed light. Rosaline and Lucas entered through the main door, hands linked, presenting a united front. Right on time, Lucas' voice echoed from the darkness. I appreciate punctuality. Lights blazed to life, blinding them. When Rosaline's vision cleared, her blood froze. Lucas stood on a catwalk above, flanked by 4 armed men. But that wasn't what stopped her heart. Rosa knelt on the concrete floor, hands bound, tape over her mouth. Carlos was beside her, similarly restrained. Both had guns pointed at their heads. Surprised. Lucas' smile was poisonous. Did you really think I didn't have insurance inside Lucas's own security team? Carlos has been feeding me information for months. Willingly, I should add. That's a lie, Lucas growled. Carlos would never. Tell him, Carlos, Luca commanded. Carlos's head lifted, and the guilt in his eyes was answer enough. I'm sorry, boss. My brother, they have my brother. They said they'd kill him if I didn't cooperate. The betrayal hit Lucas like a physical blow. Rosaline felt him stagger beside her. Carlos has been very helpful, Luca continued. Told me about your little plan. The backup team? Already neutralized. The wire Rosaline's wearing? Jammed. You're alone. Just like I wanted. Rosaline's hand moved to her concealed weapon, but 6 red laser sights appeared on her chest instantly. I wouldn't, Luca advised. Now. The files. The real ones, not whatever forgeries you created. We don't have them, Rosaline said. They're in a safe location. You kill us, you never get them. Oh, Rosaline. Sweet, predictable Rosaline. Luca descended the stairs, his footsteps echoing like a death toll. You think I need you alive? I just need one of you motivated enough to talk. He pulled out a gun, pressed it against Rosa's head. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me where those files are, or I'm going to kill Rosa. Then Carlos. Then I'm going to shoot Lucas in the knee and ask again. And we'll keep going until someone breaks. Don't tell him anything. Rosa's voice was muffled but fierce behind the tape. Brave woman, Luca acknowledged. Shame. His finger tightened on the trigger. Wait. Rosaline stepped forward. Wait. I'll tell you. Just don't hurt her. Rosaline, no, Lucas grabbed her arm. She looked at him, and in her eyes he saw the apology. I can't let him kill her. I can't have more blood on my hands. How touching. Luca lowered the gun slightly. I'm waiting. First National Bank. Safe Deposit Box 4721. The key is in my locket. Rosaline's hand went to her throat. Bring it here. Slowly. Rosaline unclasped the locket, but her fingers were shaking, whether from fear or something else, Lucas couldn't tell. As she crossed the warehouse floor, his mind raced through options. All of them ended in death. Rosaline held out the locket. Lucas snatched it, examining the key inside. Perfect. See how easy that was. He pocketed the locket, then raised his gun again. Now for the loose ends. You said you'd let them go. Rosaline shouted. I said I wouldn't shoot them if you told me. I'm a man of my word. Lucas' smile was demonic. I won't shoot them. My men will. Everything happened at once. The gunmen raised their weapons. Lucas lunged for Rosaline, trying to shield her with his body. Rosaline dove sideways, her hand flashing to her ankle where a backup knife was hidden. But before anyone could fire, the building exploded. Not literally, but close. Flash grenades detonated from multiple points, turning the warehouse into a disorienting hell of light and sound. Smoke poured in through shattered windows. In the chaos, someone grabbed Rosaline from behind. She tried to fight, but a cloth pressed over her mouth and nose. Chloroform. She recognized the sickly sweet smell too late. The last thing she heard was Lucas screaming her name. Then darkness swallowed everything. Rosaline woke to pain. Her head throbbed. Her wrists burned where rope cut into them. She was in a vehicle, van, maybe, the engine rumbling beneath her. She's awake, a voice said. Not Lucas. Someone else. Rosaline forced her eyes open. 2 men sat across from her, both armed. Neither one she recognized from the warehouse. Where? Her voice cracked. Where's Lucas? Probably dead by now, one of them said casually. Boss only needed you. The Romano prince was expendable. No. No, no, no. You're lying, Rosaline said, but terror clawed at her throat. Believe what you want. Won't matter soon. The van stopped. The back doors opened, revealing a private airfield. A small jet waited, engines running. They were taking her somewhere Lucas could never find her. If he was even alive. Rosaline's mind raced. The chloroform had made her groggy, but training kicked in. Assess. Plan. Act. She was alone. Outgunned. Being taken to a secondary location, which was universally fatal. The files were compromised. Luca had the key. Lucas was possibly dead. Rosa and Carlos's fate was unknown. She'd lost. Completely. The despair that washed over her was crushing. She'd failed. Failed her father. Failed Lucas. Failed everyone. One of the men grabbed her arm, hauling her toward the plane. Rosaline stumbled, her legs weak. Get up, a voice in her head commanded. Her father's voice. Johnsons don't quit. We fight until there's nothing left. But what was left? What could she possibly? Her locket. Luca had taken her locket, but he didn't know everything about it. The key inside wasn't the only secret. The locket itself had a tracking chip embedded in its casing. Her father had given it to her mother years ago when he'd been working undercover, a way to always find her if things went wrong. Rosaline had activated it 6 months ago when she'd entered Lucas's world, insurance in case she disappeared. If Lucas was alive, if he remembered she'd mentioned it once in passing during their planning, he could find her. It was a threat than hope. But it was something. As they forced her up the plane stairs, Rosaline made a decision. She wouldn't make this easy. Every second she could delay, every moment she could buy, was another chance for rescue. Or for revenge if it came to that. The plane door sealed shut with a hydraulic hiss that sounded like a tomb closing. Rosaline closed her eyes and did something she hadn't done since her father's funeral. She prayed. Lucas regained consciousness to Carlos shaking him. Boss. Boss, wake up. He lurched upright, immediately regretting it as pain exploded through his skull. The warehouse was a disaster, smoke still clearing, debris everywhere, bodies on the ground. Bodies. Rosaline. He tried to stand, stumbled. Where's Rosaline? Carlos's expression told him everything before the words came. They took her. During the explosion. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Lucas grabbed Carlos by the collar, fury and fear making him savage. You let them take her? After you betrayed me. My brother is already dead. Lucas' voice crackled from a phone on the ground, still connected. I killed him 2 months ago. Carlos has been working for a ghost. Poetic, really. Carlos's face crumbled. No. No, you said. I lied. Just like I've been lying for years. Just like I lied when I told Rosaline the tracking chip in her locket still worked. Lucas' laughter was cold. I disabled it weeks ago. She's gone, Lucas. And you'll never find her. By the time you even figure out where to look, she'll be dead and those files will be mine. The connection cut off. Lucas stood in the ruins of his plan, of his hope, and felt something inside him shatter. Rosaline was gone. Rosa was injured but alive, being tended to by surviving security personnel. Carlos was broken, his reason for betrayal revealed as a lie. Luca had won. Boss, we'll find her, Carlos said desperately. I'll do whatever it takes. Get out of my sight, Lucas said quietly. Boss. Get out. The roar tore from Lucas's chest. You did this. You gave him everything. Rosaline is gone because you were weak. Carlos backed away, tears streaming down his face. Lucas turned to the warehouse's exit, his mind a white void of rage and despair. He'd failed. Failed to protect her. Failed to see Luca's endgame. Failed at the one thing that mattered. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She mentioned the locket once. During planning. Said her father embedded a tracker as a precaution. Did you disable it, or was that another lie? It was from Gregory Hines. His lawyer. The man they'd suspected. Another text came through immediately after. I've been investigating Luca for 6 months. I know where he's taking her. But if you want my help, you need to trust me. And we need to move now. Lucas stared at the message, his world tilting again. Trust Gregory, who'd been suspicious from the start. Or assume this was another trap, another betrayal, another lie? Rosaline's face flashed through his mind. The way she'd looked at him before she'd been taken. The kiss that had promised something neither of them had time to explore. The future that was being ripped away. He told her he would burn the city down to keep her safe. Time to make good on that promise. Lucas typed back, "Where?" The response was immediate, "I'll send coordinates. Come armed. Come ready to kill." Because Luca isn't planning to negotiate. Lucas looked around the warehouse. At the bodies of Luca's men, taken down in the chaos. At Rosa, who'd nearly died. At Carlos, who'd lost everything for a lie. At the emptiness where Rosaline should have been. "Carlos," he said quietly. "Boss. You want redemption? Get everyone we have left. Every loyal soldier, every weapon, every resource." Lucas's voice was ice and iron. "We're going to war. For Rosaline. For justice. For the future Luca Abbott had tried to steal. And God help anyone who got in their way." The coordinates led to an abandoned pharmaceutical plant 40 miles outside the city. Lucas drove like death itself was chasing him, Gregory in the passenger seat, a heavily armed convoy following behind. "Talk," Lucas commanded. "Why should I believe you not working with Luca?" Gregory pulled out a tablet, showed him financial records. 6 months ago, one of my legitimate clients flagged an irregularity in an offshore transaction. I started digging. Found a network of shell companies, all connected to accounts Luca managed. I couldn't prove anything, but I knew something was wrong. Why didn't you come to me? Because I didn't know if you were involved. Gregory's honesty was brutal. For all I knew, you and Luca were partners. It wasn't until last night, when you defended Rosaline so publicly, that I realized you were in the dark too. Lucas's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The tracker in the locket. Is it really disabled? No. Luca lied about that too. He doesn't know it exists. Rosaline never told him, just said there was a key inside. I've been tracking it since the warehouse. Gregory pulled up a map. She's at the plant. Stationary for the past 20 minutes. Hope flared in Lucas's chest, dangerous and bright. What's Luca's endgame? He asked. He has the key to the files. Why keep Rosaline alive? Because she's bait, Gregory said grimly. He knows you'll come for her. He's counting on it. This whole thing, the warehouse, the kidnapping, it's designed to draw you out and finish you. Then let's not disappoint him. Inside the pharmaceutical plant, Rosaline had found her opening. The 2 guards had grown complacent. They tied her to a chair in what used to be a lab, then stepped outside to smoke, leaving her with a single man watching the door. Rosaline had been working on the ropes for 15 minutes, using a jagged edge on the chair's metal frame to fray them. Her wrists were bloody, but the bonds were loosening. The guard's phone rang. He answered, turning his back. Rosaline snapped the rope. Her hands were free. She launched herself at him before he could turn, her arm wrapping around his throat in a chokehold her father had taught her when she was 16. Never wait to be rescued, Rosaline. Be the one doing the rescuing. The guard struggled, but Rosaline held on with desperate strength. 10 seconds. 15. He went limp. She grabbed his gun, checked the magazine. 8 rounds. Not great, but better than nothing. The door burst open. One of the smoking guards. Rosaline fired twice. Center mass. He dropped. The second guard came running. She dove behind a desk as bullets tore through the air where she'd been standing. Her mind calculated angles, trajectory, options. She blind-fired around the corner, then rolled left while he was ducking. Came up shooting. 3 more rounds. One caught him in the shoulder. He went down screaming. Rosaline was on him in seconds, kicking his weapon away. Where's Luca? Go to hell. She pressed her gun against his wounded shoulder. Where? 3rd floor. Main office. There's a dozen men up there, you'll never make it. Rosaline knocked him unconscious with the gun's butt. Her hands were shaking, from adrenaline, from fear, from the raw reality that she'd just shot 2 people. But her father's voice echoed in her head. In a crisis, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your training. She'd been trained for this. All of it. Time to finish what her father started. Rosaline moved toward the stairs, every sense heightened. She had 8 rounds left, no, 6 after the 2 she'd fired. A dozen enemies above. No backup. Terrible odds. But she was Thomas Johnson's daughter. And Johnsons didn't quit. Lucas and his team breached the plant's perimeter at 1:23 a.m. They moved in tactical formation, Carlos on point despite everything, proving his loyalty the only way he had left. Gregory stayed with the vehicles, monitoring communications. The first floor was empty. Too empty. It's a trap, Carlos whispered. I know, Lucas replied. But she's here. So we spring it. They found the unconscious guards on the second floor. Fresh blood. Recent struggle. Lucas's heart surged. Rosaline did this. She's alive and fighting. Which means Luca knows we're here, Carlos said. A speaker crackled to life above them. Lucas. So good of you to join us. Your little maid is quite resourceful, killed 2 of my men already. Impressive. But she's trapped on the 3rd floor with nowhere to go. So here's your choice, walk away now, and I'll make her death quick. Or come up here, and I'll make you watch before I kill you both. Lucas's response was to shoot the speaker off the wall. 3rd floor, he commanded. Carlos, take 4 men and find another way up. Gregory, kill the power in 3 minutes. We go in dark. Boss, he'll have night vision. So will we. Lucas pulled out equipment he'd grabbed from the army. And I know something Luca doesn't. What's that? Rosaline fights better in the dark. Her father trained her in night operations. A grim smile crossed Lucas's face. She told me once during planning. She won't be expecting a blackout, but she'll adapt faster than Luca's men. It was a desperate gamble. But desperation was all they had left. The lights died exactly on schedule. Darkness swallowed the building. And in that darkness, Lucas Romano went hunting. Rosaline heard the power cut and understood instantly. Lucas. He was here. And he'd just given her an advantage. She dropped low, letting her eyes adjust. Sounds became her guide, panicked voices above as Lucas' men scrambled for night vision. Footsteps on the stairs. The click of weapons being raised. She moved like a ghost through the corridors, using the layout she'd memorized while being dragged through. 3 hallways. 2 offices. 1 main room where Luca would be. Gunfire erupted below. Lucas engaging Luca's forces. Rosaline used the distraction. Slipped past 2 guards frantically trying to get their equipment working. Found the main office. Luca was inside, illuminated by a laptop screen, looking remarkably calm. Rosaline Johnson, he said without turning. I wondered if you'd make it this far. Your father would be proud. Don't you dare speak about him. She raised her gun, both hands steady despite everything. Luca spun his chair around. He wasn't holding a weapon. Just a phone. Kill me, and the bomb I planted in Lucas's mansion detonates. Rosa's still there, remember? Along with 12 other staff members. They'll die screaming. Rosaline's blood froze. You're bluffing. Am I? He showed her the phone. A detonator app, countdown paused at 0:30. The moment my heart stops, this triggers. Dead man's switch. Simple but effective. Drop a comment if your heart is racing right now. And if you're loving this story, don't forget to subscribe for more. They stood at an impasse. Rosaline couldn't shoot. Luca couldn't escape. Then the door exploded inward. Lucas filled the frame, gun raised, fury incarnate. His eyes found Rosaline first. The relief that crossed his face was so profound it almost brought her to her knees. You're alive, he breathed. So are you, she whispered. How touching. Luca's voice cut through the moment. But before you two celebrate, look at my phone. Kill me, and a lot of innocent people die. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me the real location of those files, give me a 30-minute head start, and I'll disable the bomb. You're lying, Lucas said. Maybe. Maybe not. Are you willing to bet Rosa's life on it? Lucas's jaw clenched. Rosaline could see him calculating, planning, searching for an option that didn't end in disaster. Then Gregory's voice came through Lucas's earpiece, loud enough that Rosaline heard it too. Boss, I'm in his system. The bomb is real. But I can disable it, I just need 2 minutes. Luca couldn't hear the transmission. Didn't know Gregory was working behind the scenes. Rosaline caught Lucas's eye. Understanding passed between them without words. They needed to buy Gregory time. You want the files? Rosaline said, lowering her gun slightly. They at First National. Box 4721. The key opens it. I know that. I have the key. But you need my thumbprint too. It's a dual lock system. My father's insurance policy. It was a complete lie. But Luca's expression shifted, uncertainty creeping in. If you're lying. I'm not. You need me alive to open that box. So here's my deal. I come with you. You disable the bomb. We get the files. Then you let Lucas and everyone else live. Rosaline, no, Lucas started. It's the only way. She looked at him, willing him to understand. Trust me. Trust the plan. Lucas's earpiece crackled. 30 more seconds. He understood. Fine, Lucas said. But Lucas stays here. Hands where I can see them. Rosaline crossed to Luca, every step measured. She could see Lucas's muscles coiling, ready to spring. 20 seconds. Luca grabbed Rosaline's arm, pulling her toward the window where a fire escape waited. 10 seconds. Lucas said quietly. One thing before you go. What? You should have checked Gregory's loyalty more carefully. Luca's eyes widened. What? Bombs disabled, Gregory's voice announced. You've got nothing. Everything happened in a blur. Luca lunged for the window. Rosaline spun, striking his wrist, sending the phone flying. Lucas fired. The bullet caught Luca in the leg. He went down screaming. Lucas was across the room in seconds, his gun pressed against Luca's head. Move and you're dead. Luca laughed through the pain. You won't kill me. You're not like your father. You still think you're one of the good guys. You're right, Lucas said. I won't kill you. He stepped back. Rosaline stepped forward, her gun trained on the man who'd murdered her father. But she will, Lucas finished. Lucas' face went pale. Rosaline, wait. 3 years, Rosaline said softly. 3 years I've dreamed about this moment. Imagined putting a bullet in the man who took my father from me. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The room held its breath. Then Rosaline lowered the gun. But I'm not like you, she said. My father taught me that justice isn't the same as revenge. So you're going to live. You're going to face trial. And you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cage, knowing that you lost. She turned to Lucas. Call the FBI. Give them everything. It's over. Lucas pulled her into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. It's over, he repeated against her hair. You did it. You got justice for your father. Rosaline buried her face in his chest and finally let herself break. The tears came in waves, grief, relief, exhaustion, triumph, all of it pouring out at once. And Lucas held her through it all, whispering promises of safety and tomorrow and a future they'd fought like hell to reach. Outside, sirens wailed. The FBI was coming. The evidence was ready. Lucas' empire would fall. But in that moment, all Rosaline cared about was the solid warmth of Lucas's arms around her. They'd survived. Together. The FBI arrived in a fleet of black SUVs, led by Special Agent Sarah Williams, a woman with steel in her spine and intelligence in her eyes. She took one look at the scene and immediately called for medical teams. Rosaline sat on a desk while a paramedic cleaned the rope burns on her wrists. Lucas refused to leave her side, his hand wrapped around hers like a lifeline. Miss Johnson, Agent Williams approached, her expression careful. I understand you have evidence related to your father's murder. Rosaline nodded. Everything. Financial records, communications, proof of conspiracy. It's all documented. We'll need those files. Gregory has copies, Lucas said, then added, my attorney. He's been compiling everything for months. Agent Williams' eyebrow raised. The same Gregory Hines who's been feeding us anonymous tips about organized crime for the past 6 months. Lucas's head snapped toward her. What? Mr. Hines has been a confidential informant. We've been building a RICO case, but we needed someone on the inside. Williams' gaze settled on Lucas. He said he couldn't get you to flip, but he could protect you from becoming collateral damage. Gregory appeared in the doorway, looking sheepish. Surprise. You've been working with the FBI? Lucas's voice was dangerous. I'm a lawyer, Lucas. I'm supposed to work within the law. Gregory crossed his arms. Your father asked me to watch over you before he died. Said you had a good heart underneath all the darkness. He made me promise that if you ever had a chance to get out, I'd help you take it. He glanced at Rosaline. She's your chance. The revelation hung in the air. My father knew. Lucas's voice was barely a whisper. Your father was a complicated man. He built an empire, yes. But toward the end, he regretted it. Wanted to make things right. Gregory pulled out a folder. He was working with someone in law enforcement. Planning to turn state's evidence, expose the real corruption in the city, the politicians, the judges, the system that allowed men like him to flourish. Rosaline's breath caught. Who was he working with? Gregory handed her the folder. Inside were photographs. Meeting records. Encrypted communications between two men. Lucas's father, Vincent Romano. And Rosaline's father, Thomas Johnson. That's impossible, Rosaline whispered. My father would never. Your father was a good cop in a corrupt system, Agent Williams interrupted gently. He knew the only way to really change things was from the inside. Vincent Romano approached him with an offer, full disclosure of his criminal operations in exchange for immunity and protection. They were building a case that would have taken down half the city's power structure. Lucas stared at the photographs like they were written in a foreign language. My father wanted out. He wanted redemption, Gregory said. But someone found out. Someone with more to lose than anyone. Luca, Rosaline said. Luca was part of it. But he wasn't working alone. Agent Williams pulled up a video on her tablet. We found this in Luca's files. Recorded 3 years ago. 2 days before your father's died. She hit play. The video showed Luca in a darkroom, meeting with someone whose face was obscured by shadows. Romano's going to flip, Luca's voice said. His meeting with that cop again tomorrow. If they finalize the deal, we're all finished. Then make sure they don't finalize it, the shadowed figure replied. A woman's voice. Cultured. Cold. You want me to kill them both? I want you to make it look like gang retaliation for Romano, and like Romano's revenge for the cop. Make them martyrs to opposite causes. No one will ever know they were working together. And Romano's son. Let him inherit. He's weak. Sentimental. He'll be easy to control. If not. The woman stepped partially into light. Isabella Cortez. Rosaline's hand flew to her mouth. Isabella's family has run this city for 3 generations, Agent Williams explained. Construction contracts, political appointments, judicial decisions, they control it all. Your fathers were about to expose everything. So she had them killed and positioned Luca to take over Lucas's operations from within. She's been running me like a puppet, Lucas said, his voice hollow. Every major decision I've made, she influenced. Every deal, every alliance. She was grooming you to be her tool, Gregory confirmed. Until Rosaline showed up and reminded you what having a conscience feels like. Lucas turned to Rosaline, and she saw the devastation in his eyes. My father tried to do the right thing, and I spent 8 years building exactly what he wanted to destroy. Rosaline cupped his face in her hands. No. You ran things differently. Rosa told me, you protect your people, you have rules, you don't hurt innocents. You're not your father, but you're not the monster Isabella wanted you to be either. She's right, Agent Williams said. We've been watching you, Mr. Romano. Your organization is criminal, yes. But compared to what Isabella's been orchestrating, the human trafficking through construction crews, the drug distribution through city contracts, the murders of anyone who gets too close, you're practically a saint. That's not exactly comforting, Lucas muttered. It should be. Because we're offering you the same deal your father wanted. Full immunity. Testify against Isabella and her network, help us dismantle the real corruption in this city, and walk away clean. The room went silent. What about my people? Lucas asked. Rosa, Carlos, the others who work for me, they don't go down for my choices. The non-violent members of your staff get immunity too. Anyone who cooperates. William's expression was firm but fair. We want the system, not the individuals trapped in it. Lucas looked at Rosaline. If I do this, I lose everything. The business, the money, the power. But you gain everything that matters, Rosaline finished. Your freedom. Your soul. A future. A future with you. If you want it. Lucas kissed her. Right there, in front of the FBI and his attorney and a dozen agents. Kissed her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. When they broke apart, he turned to Agent Williams. I'll testify. Give you everything. But I have one condition. What's that? Isabella Cortez doesn't get a deal. She murdered two good men who were trying to make things right. She manipulated me, used Luca, destroyed lives. I want to see her pay for all of it. Williams smiled. It was not a kind smile. Mr. Romano, we've been trying to nail Isabella Cortez for 15 years. If you can give us what we need, I'll personally put the handcuffs on her myself. Then let's finish this. The raid on Isabella's estate happened at dawn. Rosaline insisted on being there. Agent Williams tried to argue, but one look at the determination in Rosaline's eyes ended the discussion. Lucas rode in the command vehicle, talking Williams' team through Isabella's security systems, her escape routes, every detail of her operation that he'd learned over 8 years. She has a panic room in the East Wing, he said, pointing to the blueprints. Reinforced steel, biometric locks. If she reaches it, we'll never get her out. Then we make sure she doesn't reach it, Williams replied. The gates came down at 6:47 a.m. 50 federal agents poured into the estate simultaneously. Isabella was in her study, calmly drinking tea like she'd been expecting them. Agent Williams, she said pleasantly. To what do I owe this dramatic entrance? Isabella Cortez, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, corruption of public officials, and about 40 other charges I'm going to enjoy reading to you. Williams' smile was triumphant. You have the right to remain silent. This is absurd. I'm a respected businesswoman. You're a murderer, Rosaline said, stepping into the room. Isabella's composure finally cracked when she saw Rosaline. You're the Johnson girl. I should have had Luca kill you months ago. Probably, Rosaline agreed. But you didn't. You underestimated me. Just like you underestimated my father. Your father was a fool. Thought he could change the system. The system doesn't change, little girl. It just crushes people who try. Maybe, Lucas said, appearing beside Rosaline. But here's the thing about people like us, we don't crush easy. Isabella's eyes narrowed. You're nothing, Lucas. A weak imitation of your father. I made you everything you are. No, Lucas said softly. You made me what you wanted me to be. But he took Rosaline's hand. She showed me who I actually am. And that's someone who's going to watch you burn for what you did. Isabella lunged for her desk, for a weapon, or a panic button, they'd never know. Agent Williams was faster. The handcuffs clicked into place with a sound like justice. Get her out of here, Williams commanded. As agents led Isabella away, she screamed threats and curses. But her power was broken. Her empire was falling. And for the first time in 3 generations, the Cortez stranglehold on the city was finished. Rosaline watched her go, tears streaming down her face. Dad, we did it, she whispered. We got them all. Lucas's arms came around her from behind, holding her as she cried. He'd be so proud of you, he murmured. I'm so proud of you. Rosaline turned in his embrace, looking up at the man who'd started as her enemy and become her everything. What happens now? Now? We testify. We help the FBI clean up this city. We give our fathers the justice they died trying to achieve. He brushed away her tears with his thumbs. And then we figure out what normal looks like. Normal? Rosaline laughed through her tears. You think we could ever be normal? Probably not. But we can try. His expression turned serious. Rosaline Johnson, I know this is fast. I know we've been through hell and maybe we're both just trauma-bonded or running on adrenaline. Lucas. But I don't care. I love you. I think I've loved you since the moment you didn't flinch when Isabella threw that glass. You're brave and brilliant and everything good I'm not, and I want to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Rosaline's heart felt too big for her chest. You don't have to deserve me. You just have to choose me. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, he promised. They kissed as the sun rose over Isabella's fallen empire, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. Around them, justice was being served. Evidence was being collected. An entire corrupt system was being dismantled. But all Rosaline could feel was the man in her arms and the future they'd fought like hell to reach. If this story is giving you all the feels, drop a comment and let me know. Your support means everything. Agent Williams cleared her throat. Sorry to interrupt, but we need your statements. Both of you. Of course, Rosaline said, not letting go of Lucas's hand. As they walked toward the command vehicle, Gregory appeared, holding a box. Almost forgot, he said, handing it to Rosaline. We found this in Lucas' safe. Thought you'd want it. Rosaline opened the box. Inside was her father's police badge, his watch, and a letter in his handwriting addressed to her. Her hands shook as she opened it. My dearest Rosaline. If you're reading this, then I didn't make it, and I'm so sorry. Sorry for the secrets, sorry for the danger, sorry for leaving you alone. But I need you to know, everything I did to make the world better for you. Vincent Romano and I were trying to change things. Trying to prove that redemption is possible, even for people who've done terrible things. If Vincent's son is half the man I think he is, he'll take care of you when I can't. Trust him. Trust yourself. And know that I love you more than anything in this world. Make me proud, baby girl. Dad. Rosaline's vision blurred. Lucas read over her shoulder, his arm tightening around her waist. He knew, Rosaline whispered. He knew about us before there even was an us. He was a good detective, Lucas said, his voice rough with emotion. Saw things before they happened. Rosaline folded the letter carefully, held it against her heart. Her father had given her one last gift, permission to love the son of the man he'd trusted with his life. And Rosaline was going to honor that trust. She was going to help Lucas become the man both their fathers believed he could be. Together, they'd finish what their fathers started. And maybe, just maybe, they'd find their own kind of redemption along the way. 6 months later, Rosaline stood in front of the federal courthouse, the autumn sun warm on her face. The trial had lasted 4 months, 4 months of testimony, evidence, revelations that shook the city to its core. Isabella Cortez had been sentenced to life without parole. Luca Abbott got 40 years. 17 city officials, 6 judges, and countless others had fallen in the aftermath. The corruption her father had died fighting was finally exposed. Today was the last day. The final hearing. The moment everything became official. You ready? Lucas asked, his hand finding hers. Rosaline looked at him, really looked. The past 6 months had changed him. The hardness in his eyes had softened. The weight he'd carried for so long had lifted. He smiled more. Laughed more. He'd started seeing a therapist, working through the trauma of his childhood, the guilt of his past. He was becoming the man his father had hoped he'd be. I'm ready, she said. They walked into the courthouse together, fingers intertwined. Agent Williams met them in the hallway, professional as always but with warmth in her eyes. Big day. The biggest, Rosaline agreed. The judge is ready. Mr. Romano, you understand what's about to happen? Lucas nodded. I do. They entered the courtroom. Gregory was already there, along with Rosa, Carlos, and a dozen other members of Lucas's former organization, people who'd chosen cooperation over loyalty to a criminal empire. The judge, an honest one, brought in from another district to ensure fairness, looked over his glasses at the assembled crowd. We're here today to finalize the plea agreements and immunity deals related to the Cortez Romano investigation. Mr. Romano, please stand. Lucas stood, and Rosaline's heart clenched. This was it. The moment that would define his future. You've provided extensive cooperation with federal authorities, the judge began. Testified against Isabella Cortez and her organization, exposed systemic corruption, and helped dismantle one of the most extensive criminal networks this city has ever seen. In exchange, the government has offered you full immunity from prosecution for your previous activities. The judge paused, his expression grave. However, immunity is not absolution. You've done terrible things, Mr. Romano. Hurt people. Broken laws. And while you won't face criminal charges, you'll carry those actions for the rest of your life. Do you understand that? I do, Your Honor, Lucas said, his voice steady. And I accept that burden. I can't undo the past, but I can try to build a better future. See that you do. The judge signed the document. Immunity granted. You're free to go. The words hung in the air like a benediction. Free. After 8 years of living in the darkness, Lucas Romano was free. Rosaline saw his shoulders shake slightly. Saw him bow his head. And when he turned to her, tears streamed down his face. She crossed to him in 3 steps, threw her arms around him, and held on as he finally let himself feel the weight of what freedom meant. It's over, he whispered against her hair. It's really over. No, Rosaline corrected gently. It's just beginning. The celebration was small, intimate. Rosa had cooked enough food to feed an army, insisting that freedom deserved a feast. Her daughter Maria was there, safe and whole, studying for her finals. Carlos stood awkwardly in the corner until Rosa physically dragged him to the table and forced a plate into his hands. You've apologized enough, she told him firmly. You were trying to protect your brother. We forgive you. Now eat. Carlos's eyes were suspiciously bright as he obeyed. Gregory raised a glass. To Thomas Johnson and Vincent Romano. 2 men who proved that it's never too late to choose the right path. And to Rosaline and Lucas, who finished what their father started. To second chances, Lucas added, his eyes on Rosaline. To justice, Rosaline said softly. They drank, and for the first time in 3 years, Rosaline felt something she'd almost forgotten, peace. After dinner, Lucas pulled her outside to the garden behind the small house he'd bought, nothing like the mansion he'd lived in before, just a modest home in a quiet neighborhood. A place where he could be normal. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Rosaline's breath caught. Lucas. It's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He smiled. Open it. Inside was her father's locket. The one Luca had taken. But it had been repaired, polished, made beautiful again. I had Gregory track it down from the evidence locker, Lucas explained. Thought you should have it back. Rosaline's fingers trembled as she lifted it out. Thank you. I thought I'd lost it forever. There's something else. Lucas opened the locket. Inside, where the key had been, was a new photograph, Rosaline and her father, from years ago, both laughing at something off camera. Gregory found it in your dad's desk. Thought it should be where you could always see it. The tears came without warning. Rosaline clutched the locket to her chest, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gesture. I love you, she said through the tears. God, Lucas, I love you so much. I love you too. More than I thought I was capable of loving anyone. He cupped her face in his hands. You saved me, Rosaline. You walked into my life planning to destroy me, and instead, you showed me how to live. We saved each other, Rosaline corrected. They stood in the garden as the sun set, holding each other like they were the only 2 people in the world. What do we do now? Rosaline asked eventually. We've spent so long fighting. What does normal look like? Lucas considered. Well, Gregory offered me a job. Legitimate business consulting for companies trying to clean up their operations. Apparently, there's a market for people who know how criminals think. Rosaline laughed. That's perfect. And Agent Williams mentioned they could use someone with your investigative skills. Consulting work, cold cases, that sort of thing. Following in my father's footsteps. He'd like that. Rosaline looked up at him. Think we can do it? Build normal lives after everything? Honestly, I have no idea. Lucas's smile was crooked. But I want to try. With you. Maybe get a dog. Learn to cook something other than scrambled eggs. Take an actual vacation where no one's trying to kill us. Sounds revolutionary. Sounds perfect. They were quiet for a moment, just existing in the peace they'd fought so hard to achieve. My dad would have liked you, Rosaline said finally. The real you, I mean. Not the mask you wore for everyone else. I think our fathers would have been friends if they'd had more time, Lucas replied. They were both trying to do the same thing, protect the people they loved, make the world better. They just came from different sides. But their kids got to finish what they started. Yeah. Lucas pressed a kiss to her forehead. We did. A car pulled up in front of the house. Agent Williams stepped out, looking apologetic. Sorry to interrupt, she called. But I thought you'd want to know. The city council voted this afternoon. They are naming the new community center after Thomas Johnson. A place for at-risk kids, job training, mentorship programs, everything he believed in. Rosaline's hand flew to her mouth. Really? Really? They want you at the dedication ceremony next month. Both of you, actually. Lucas, they'd like you to speak. Former insider's perspective on why programs like this matter. Lucas looked stunned. They want me to speak? After everything. After everything, you're proof that people can change, Williams said firmly. That redemption is real. That's a powerful message. After Williams left, Rosaline turned to Lucas. Will you do it? The speech. If you'll be there with me. Always. They went back inside where Rosa was forcing second helpings on everyone and Carlos was teaching Maria some extremely questionable self-defense moves. Gregory was on his laptop, probably working, because the man never stopped. This was family. Not the one either of them had been born into, but the one they'd built from the ashes of their old lives. Later that night, as Rosaline lay in Lucas's arms in the bedroom of their modest house, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. She'd come to destroy him and found her salvation instead. He'd been drowning in darkness and she'd been his light. Together, they'd found justice, love, and a future neither of them had believed possible. Rosaline. Lucas's voice was sleepy in the darkness. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For not shooting me when you had the chance. Rosaline laughed, the sound bright and free. Thank you for not being the monster I thought you were. I was, though. For a long time. Maybe. But you're not anymore. You're just Lucas. And that's exactly who I love. He pulled her closer, pressed a kiss to her temple. Marry me. Rosaline's heart stopped. What? Not now. Not today. But someday, when we've figured out what normal looks like and built something real, marry me. Be my family. Let me spend the rest of my life making you happy. It wasn't a proposal with a ring and flowers. It was better, a promise of a future they'd build together, one day at a time. Yes, Rosaline whispered. Someday, yes. They fell asleep wrapped in each other, two souls who'd found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk into the light together. We have come to the end of the story. Thank you for watching to the end. Share your opinion about this story in the comments below. I like getting feedback from my audience. Also like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any stories like this.